But we did lose a lot of aircraft, and the night of February the 18th, we were flying. We did a trip into the Dortmund-Ems Canal area. I was coughing. I had a bit of bronchitis, and when I landed, I was spitting up blood. So I thought, well, we looked on the battle order. We're on that for the following night, on the 20th. So I talked over with the crew. They said, geez, you better go and check with the doctor and see what he has to say. So anyway, to make a long story short, they grounded me. And that night, another young fellow took my place, and I think the target area was around Essen or some area. But anyway, they were shot down, and the fellow that took my place was killed. I wanted to be an air crew, and I didn't really care everybody wanted to be a pilot or a navigator or a wireless operator or an air gunner. That was a basic crew. And there was a flight engineer as well. So the crew was made up of that. I served, operational serving was in England. We had a squadron, it was 223 Squadron. I had previously trained in Nassau in the Bahamas. They were training us for Coastal Command, but 100 Group apparently needed a more sophisticated electronic devices, and they'd formed what they called 100 Group, which was a highly secretive group as far as the equipment was concerned, the jamming equipment. And anyway, I arrived in England and was based in Norfolk, just inland from the Wash. Anyway, we'd check the battle order in the mess hall and find out if we were flying that night or not. And if we were, we'd check the time for briefing. We'd go up to the briefing. The pilots would go to their section, the navigators and the wireless operators to get all the different codes, and the gunners would go to their section. After the briefing, we'd go for what they called a pre-flight meal. It was often referred to as the Last Supper because, you know, it was for a lot of guys. And from there, we'd go out to the aircraft, and I'd have a smoke, and we'd head for whatever the target area was. And what we'd do, there was special operators in our aircraft. We were flying Liberators, B-24s, and the special operators operated this jamming equipment, which would jam the Germans' radar. So we'd take off with the main bomber stream, or pick up the main bomber stream. Then we'd cut away from them and start dropping what they called a window. It was a little tinsel paper, but it would make a blip on the Germans' radar like an aircraft. So they would theoretically send their night fighters up to intercept us. And theoretically, again, the main force would get in relatively free of German night fighters. It didn't always work, but it worked a good many times, and the Germans found it pretty frustrating to. In a Liberator, it was hard to get off the flight deck. You had to go through the bomb bay and bail out through there, and if the hydraulics were shot away, you'd have to crank them open. Of course, by that time, you'd probably be hitting the deck, you know. And so there was 6 were killed, the 2 pilots, the flight engineer, the wireless operator, and the mid-upper gunner. And the fellows at the back, the 4 special operators got out, and the 2 beam gunners. There was one gunner there. He had a tendency to leave his parachute on the floor and not do his harness up. So anyway, he was last seen looking for his harness, and he couldn't bail out, so he was killed. They were crashed near a little village of Dornheim, I think it was called, and the farmer described the scene. The fuselage, or the main fuselage, crashed onto a hill, and the 5 bodies were there, and they assumed they died instantly from the crash. So I was really lucky. I should be buried over there in And I have pictures of the fellows' gravestones. Some people have gone over to Europe, and there's a group researched different crash sites. And so they got some letters from the farmers who witnessed the crash, and they described, what they found.
It's been 70 years since World War II ended, almost. And I'm just wondering, what is your message to all the students here today?
Well, my message would be that wars really don't seem to accomplish anything. And they're so costly in lives and what have you. Some people make a lot of money out of it, the armament groups and that, but and a lot of it's politically motivated. I think the First World War. Second World War, there was justification to fight the Germans because of their attitude of trying to eliminate a certain race of people. So try to avoid war and be nice to each other.
Okay, thank you.